My name is Yosef Tesfagauer. I am Ethiopian and Eritrean. It's the traditions and the norms with which you grew up in, not particularly. It could be country, but just more like your community overall. Basically, it's I'm not allowed to go back home because of the current government there. The way the political situation is, once you leave, you ain't never going back. Um, it is what it is. To me, it's not such a big deal. I like it here. I have, I have officially moved, you could say, here. So this is, home is where you make it, is what I like to say. So this is my new home. Is it sad? Yeah, but what are you gonna do about it? It is what it is. For some people, it's a big part of their identity, their personal identity. Some people choose to use cultural identity as a part of who they are. I mean, I think it's a little part of everybody. For some people, it's a bigger part than for others. For me, that's cultural identity. That's what I love about the US, is that whatever identity I bring here and whoever I meet, I take a little bit of yours, you take a little bit of mine, and it's this huge melting pot. And that's what it is to me, at least.
My name is Daniela Dimitrova and I'm from Bulgaria. Until I was 12, I lived in Sofia, Bulgaria. From 12 to 16, I moved to New York. And then from 16 to 19, I lived in Sofia, Bulgaria. Now I live in Brandeis. Cultural identity. I guess the customs that you become habituated to. Cultural identity obviously differs from place to place. Although the lines can become a bit blurry. Also that's kind of worse because of globalization and things. So yeah, there's dissatisfaction within the people that live in Bulgaria because it's a transitional period in history. In essence, just things snowball, people are very dissatisfied about taxes, about bills, like electricity bills, stuff like that, and because they don't have resources to basically live, they don't have the bare necessities, a lot of people, so there's a lot of protesting and they kind of forced the government to resign. It was obviously very surreal. I think that one of the things that makes things real for us is seeing it with our own two eyes, and I couldn't do that, and it's very different seeing things via the internet as opposed to in real life. So I felt very disconnected, and one of the problems for me was that I always have been very proactive when it comes to being involved in just the movement for change in Bulgaria. And my friends and I have all these ideas of steady, slow change through different channels, and this was a big shock in the sense that our plans for slow, gradual change that would spare any violence and things like that to people were suddenly evaporated. And it was difficult because with those people that I have a strong connection with, who we have a common idea that we were working towards, and I guess still are, just in a bit of a different way. I felt that I wasn't there for them, and I still do feel that way, that I wasn't there for them. I was betraying them in some way by being so far away and not being able to help there, that I couldn't go out and protest myself, that I couldn't help them when they got hurt because someone hit them while they were protesting or something. And I'm still afraid. I want to see how that's going to play out when I go back home, and see how the dynamics of our relationships will have changed or stayed the same. I'm technically definitely a mix of United States cultural identity and Bulgarian cultural identity, but I'd like to think that I'm not powerless and I'm not just the product of my circumstances, and I'm capable of deciding for myself. If I had to succinctly sum it up, I strive to be a thinking, questioning human being that is a citizen of the earth. Yes, that is a human being that contains elements that are from the United States and from Bulgaria, but I'm trying to look at the big picture and, be able to live with myself.
My name is Berke Goldberg. I was born in Mexico City, but have lived in Monterrey, Mexico most of my life. For me, my cultural identity would be a set of values and cultural attributes that I decide to identify with. And it's not the same for two people, even if there's twins and they grew up exactly the same. Everything that you've been exposed to are different experiences, and that would be your cultural identity. So there's a lot of like grouping that you could do. For example, I can say I'm Mexican and I share that part of my cultural identity with another 112 million people, but there are other things that make it more specific, and you're like Achilles and the turtle, you're dividing so much that you have like infinite possibilities of how to describe yourself. I left Monterrey in a time where the drug wars were really intensely starting to affect civilians too, because it was, I mean, when it was one drug cartel fighting another drug cartel, I don't care, like they can do whatever as long as they're not harming people. But then civilians started to get in the way, and then it started becoming fear and it started becoming terrorism. I was spending the summer in Israel right before I started art school, and I heard about the burning of Casino Royale in Monterrey, which was completely a terrorist act by one of the drug cartels because there were innocent civilians in it. But it was also part of the drug war because the owner of the casino had some like shady business going on there. It was just like a whole mess, and it was almost like the pike of the whole thing, because it's when it actually started being about let's terrorize civilians, let's show them that we own this town and that the police can take us and that they cannot be safe in their normal lives because we'll burn down whatever place they're in. And that was really hard. I do consider myself an activist at times, and I do consider myself a person who's very conscious and very aware of what is going on in my country, and I've tried to propose solutions for it. I felt like I should have been doing something and I could be doing something, but I was on the other side of the world, and people I knew were in potential danger, and people were organizing protests and writing letters and doing all kinds of things, and I was sitting on the other side of the world not being able to do anything, and it was horrible. I feel like every minute my cultural identity changes. I feel like there's things that I was born with and that I was not asked. I was never consulted if I wanted to be born in Mexico and in a family that identified as Jewish, and into a heterosexual marriage. I was never asked about the kind of family I wanted to have. So there's all kinds of things that were out of my control and that are obviously part of my identity, but there's also all the things that are in my control, and the meals I had today and the music I listened to and the way that I decided to eat it with my hands and the way that I decided to listen to that music and the dancing and what I wore and what I doodled instead of taking notes in class, and the way that I feel about a walk or about the spring or about meeting people. That's all part of cultural identity, and I guess people have different hierarchies for what's important to their cultural identity, but for me it's just really important to acknowledge that in my day-to-day I gain more and more and never lose anything.